and the construction started with two major construction sites. One in Kappas Casing for the mill proper, and the other at Smokey Falls for the dam and powerhouse. Now, the only way to get into Smokey was overland. There was nothing, not in the way of roads at all, and a tote road was cut from Kappas Casing through to Smokey Falls, and equipment and men moved in over that. In the course of time, the construction got underway at the Smokey site, and the construction of a 50-mile rail line from Kappas Casing to Smokey got underway in stretches all the way along. The railroad construction was handled in the established manner of having a cache about every 5 miles with an engineer in charge and laborers with wheelbarrows and shovels putting up the grade for the line. While all of this was going on, the sawmill, which was built about 2 miles south of the power site at Smokey, was producing lumber to make forms, and the blasting and digging out and excavation for the power site and the East Dam or control dam got underway. The progress of the construction was phenomenal. The whole enterprise was completed in about 2 years. And in this day and age, it takes you 2 years to even get started on your first drawings, let alone to have the thing going. About the only material that couldn't be moved into Smokey before the rail line was completed were the parts for the generators. The rest of the stuff, which was light enough to be moved in the wintertime, went in over the tote roads. There were 2 sites. First, the powerhouse site, which was on the west side of the river, and secondly, the control dam site. Now, the control dam site is on a level plain, almost. It was a case of blasting out for foundations for your piers and stuff like that, and then it was a flat rapids in that area, and the construction part was easy. In the case of the powerhouse, it was more difficult because here you had your major drop in the river, and the first thing that had to be done was the construction of a copper dam south of the powerhouse and a copper dam north of the powerhouse at the end of what was going to be the tail race. And once those were completed, then the excavation in the hole where the powerhouse is built could get underway. There was no such thing as heavy drilling machinery such as we know today. All of the drilling and blasting was hand labor. The small jackhammers and drilling and then blasting and then mucking it out with by hand, and skip hoists, which brought the stuff up either to the elevation of the top of the dam, or where the dam would be, or by tramways where the loose rubble was loaded into dump cars and pushed by dinkies along rails and dumped over the side, very similar to the way they get rid of slag at Sudbury at the mines. And as the bed of slag filled up, where they just lifted the rail lines another 3 or 4 feet and continued dumping. It was predominantly a hand labor operation all the way through. The pictures that you see of the construction, the people working are just about as thick as ants in the various places, and surprising as it may seem, the right-of-way for the railroad, all was put up with wheelbarrows and shovels.
As mentioned by Mr. Ballantyne, The story of Smokey Falls Generating Station dates back to June 14, 1923, when the Spruce Falls Company Limited acquired the water power reserve for the Smokey Falls site. The purpose of this acquisition was to obtain a source of hydropower in order to expand the Kapuskasing mill to meet the needs of the New York Times and the Kimberly-Clark Company. In a new timber concession awarded during September 1925, the Spruce Falls Company Limited secured a vast new timber area, and by a subsequent agreement with the Government of Ontario dated January 5, 1926, agreed to build a huge new mill in Kapuskasing to employ 700 men making paper and another 3,500 men cutting trees in the woods. Part of this agreement also committed the company to build a generating plant at Smokey Falls and an 80-kilometer railway and transmission line between Kapuskasing and Smokey Falls. In 1926, Kimberly-Clark and the New York Times Company incorporated the Spruce Falls Power and Paper Company Limited. On the 14th day of May 1926, the Spruce Falls Power and Paper Company gave a contract to Morrow and Beattie Limited of Peterborough, Ontario, to build a railway and transmission line from Kapuskasing to Smokey Falls and to construct a hydroelectric power development at the falls. The Smokey Falls Railway, or the Smokey Line, as it was known locally, incorporated the company's original railroad to Sturgeon Falls, from which point it crossed the Kapuskasing River and proceeded northward to Smokey Falls on the Mattagami River. While the line was built primarily to supply the power development, it also was located and constructed as a trunk line for logging operations from which spurs would branch out to tap the northern timber holdings. The natural head of water at Smokey Falls was 75 feet, but the rock formation on each side of the west channel made it possible to increase this to 144 feet. The river was divided into two channels by an island. It was decided to build a control dam across the east channel, and the headworks dam and powerhouse across the west channel, which was to be deepened below the powerhouse. Construction of the Smokey Falls site was not impeded in any way by the severity of the winter. On New Year's Day, 1927, despite the cold weather, the men were hard at work clearing the site for the cement shed and putting steam heating in the office and pouring cement footings for the towers and crusher. The life of the construction worker at such a remote site was not easy. During the winter, the men made a few trips over the railway to Kapuskasing, while once in a while a hockey team from Kapuskasing came up to play the Smokey Falls team. In the summer, it was a baseball team that came up the line, but there was little time for play, for a night gang was breaking rock in the tail race from April 4th onward. While once the cement pouring started, it often went on throughout the nights. At least 4 men were killed on the project before the year was out. 2 in an explosion on July the 4th, a third on October 3rd, who drowned when he fell off Pier 8, while the 4th fell to his death off the main dam. The Smokey Falls community has thrived over the years and, as of 1990, consisted of 12 families with 7 or 8 children in school taught by Terry Papineau. The class consists of 1 child in kindergarten in grades 2, 3, 4, and 6. Smokey Falls also has its own school district and school board. The Smokey Falls plant has a staff of 16 to 18 employees who live in the nearby community. Once there were many more buildings present, especially 2-story bunkhouses that were temporary home to the hundreds of men who worked for Morrow and Beattie contractors during the construction period. Today only 3 buildings remain from the construction period. Originally serving as offices for construction supervisors, they are now used as homes for powerhouse staff. Besides a well-kept 2-story staff house with a completed basement, full-time cook, and dining room, the community has an active social club which utilizes the community hall for such functions as the annual Smoky Winter Carnival, which attracts people for ice fishing, billiards, arm wrestling, and dancing. There are many benefits for employees working here, such as the opportunity to fish, hunt, hike, and explore nature, which surrounds you in every direction. Plus, there is a very low cost of living in company houses and free transportation to Kapuskasing on the company bus. If you don't mind a bit of isolation, like to be self-reliant, and enjoy the outdoors, Smokey Falls is a good place to live. The main and only reason for the community's existence, however, is the generating station. The Smokey Falls plant produces about 54 to 56 megawatts from a head of 35.7 meters, 117 feet. The entire output goes to the pulp mill at Kapuskasing via a 115 kilovolt transmission line. This provides about two-thirds of the power requirements of the Kapuskasing mill. It is estimated to be worth about $1 million a month in 1989 dollars. Of the 4 dams on this section of the river, Smokey Falls is the highest and passes 7,000 cubic feet of water a second. Dennis Potvin has worked at the generating station for the past 26 years and is presently the chief operator. We asked him to explain the workings of the generating station.
The Smokey Falls powerhouse has 4 generators. They're GE generators with a Francis-type turbine rated at 15 megawatts each. We produce, under ideal conditions, approximately 56 megawatts. Our head, usually under ideal conditions, would be approximately 116 feet. The 4B elevation to sea level is 570 feet above sea level. We have in the plant here approximately 10 men working, 8 of them on the operating crew, and 2 maintenance men. Of course, it runs 24 hours a day, so to supply the part of the power required at the mill at Kapuskasing. Each individual generator produces approximately 14 megawatts. Through the plant, the 4 generators were using a total of 7,000 cubic feet of water per second. That's at full operation. Each of the generators have its own intake, its own penstock, and that's where, of course, we get into the butterfly valve, which is the valve that can cut the water completely off, or shut the power completely off. The runners. These butterfly valves are situated in between the penstock and the skull case. They're 14 feet in diameter, and they have to withstand approximately 40 pounds per square inch of pressure. When the water goes, of course, through the butterfly valve, when the butterfly valve is in the open position, the water gets next to the wicket gates. The wicket gates are forming a circle around the runner. Those wicket gates are activated by 2 hydraulic cylinders, which is controlled by a governor, and they will open and close so as to supply the right amount of water needed to turn the generator and keep it turning at 163.5 turns per minute. This will give us 60 cycle, and depending, of course, on what kind of a load we have, will, of course, depend on the amount of water that we're putting through.
As we have seen, Smokey Falls has a long and proud heritage. It is a true tribute to the quality of the men and machinery that have worked here over the years. Smokey Falls was more than a job. It was also a lifestyle that solicits strong and fond memories of people who have lived there. We asked Mr. Ballantyne to summarize his experiences at Smokey.
It was an interesting place to be. It was, I can very honestly say that 13 of the best years of my life I spent in Smokey Falls, and when I came out of there to go into the mill, I have very fond memories of the place.
Grace and Jean Albert are retiring in the spring of 1990 after over 2 decades of living at Smokey. We asked Grace of her first impressions when she arrived here many years ago.
The first time, I thought it was going to be worse than it was. I really liked it. It was nice for me. And he got me over to visit the house that I was going to live in. And I don't know, I just liked it. To me, it was very nice. And I still like Smokey Falls. Even if I'm moving away, I still wish I could go back to 23 years because I really like Smokey Falls.
We also asked her what the ladies did for recreation in this isolated place.
Well, I knew I was going fishing myself because I love fishing, even hunting. I always went with him.
If the wife doesn't like hunting or fishing or something like that, well, the time would be pretty long for her. But even one year there, I just took the canoe and we went down the river to Moose River crossing. Well, about 3 days. So down the river, it was fun.
Lots of fun. But it was nice that time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Even too hot that day. And for my pastime, well, I knit, I crochet, I got all kinds of hobbies that I love doing.
Finally, no one can better summarize the community of Smokey Falls better than Dennis Potvin, who gave us this final impression.
When I came here in 1964, to be precise, the 20th of July 1964, I was coming here to work for approximately 6 months. I've been here since then. But what I found is a real paradise. Smokey Falls was at the time just about the same as it is now, except for a few minor changes. The only access to Smokey Falls was by railroad. Of course, it was very quiet. The fishing was good, the hunting was good, and I loved it. That 6 months lasted pretty near 26 years now, and I still like it.